I restarted watching Bridgerton season one because of the new season that is coming up this month. Well, on May 16th. And, I wanted to like recatch up, and because the story is about Pollen, I wanted to see their interaction in the first two seasons, but also give my review on the couples of each season. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another review on the Review Garden. So, starting off, we know that, season one was about Simon and Daphne. And mostly here, we got to see the past relationship between Simon and his father, right? So, similar in the book, we got to know that, we got to witness the interaction between the two of them. And starting off with his father being the biggest jerk of them all, right? He always wanted a son to carry down the Hastings bloodline. And, you know, in the story, in the book, they told you that his wife went through so many miscarriages, and this man did not even care. And when she finally gave birth to a son, she passed away that night, right? Which is the same thing that we saw in the series, that happened. Except in the series, they didn't really tell you like how many miscarriages she had. But what I really loved about the series was the fact that they made Lady Danbury be the one to be there for Simon throughout this whole thing, right? With the book, I think they said it was like his teacher or something, like somebody they hired for his education. But in the series, it was Lady Danbury who was there for him through the whole time, right? Growing up, she pretty much gave him or helped him find his confidence and help him with his speaking, right? She was like, make sure that when you walk into a room, you command, the attention that you want to give. And she even said it about herself, where she was like, she used to be scared to go into different rooms, but she made it so that when she came into the room, everyone kind of like feared her, like her presence was known. And you can kind of see it when during the first ball, and the Bridgerton boys saw her, and they were like, oh, whoa, we gotta go. But she was like, too late. And she already saw them, and she was walking towards them, right? And she even said like she felt sorry for Daphne because of how Anthony was acting, you know? And this is where Simon is also conflicting, because he made a vow to his father because of how much of a jerk his father was, who was like, oh, you're my biggest failure. And he even said that his wife was his failure too. And I'm like, dude, that is horrible on so many levels. But then I'm like, if you had such a problem, why didn't you remarry? Why didn't you remarry or have more kids? Like, you make no sense. And then after that, Simon made the vow that he was like, he's never gonna get married, and the bloodline ends with him. And that was like his biggest thing, that he wanted the Hastings bloodline to continue. But Simon's like, nope, sorry. So that comes the problem now with him interacting with Daphne and them doing that little charade, that, he's finding himself falling for her, but on the other end, he can't bring himself to marry her or have kids with her, right? And then let's move a little bit to Pollen for a little bit, right? So so far I've only watched the first two episodes, rewatched the first two episodes, and there's not really much interaction with them except for, when all the people came to read poems for Marina, and when um when that girl Crusetta, or whatever her name is, when she dropped the drink on Penelope in episode 2, and Colin came to her rescue and was like, yeah, let's dance type of thing. But even from the beginning, you could see he I've seen many people mash it up and say that he was interested right then and there. Like, you didn't really see him be much interested. He was friends with Penelope, but there wasn't much interest in the first two episodes, because as soon as he saw Marina, he was head over heels for Marina, because he's like, who is that? And then, so there, I'm going to keep watching just to see like when he started acting differently towards her, and kind of report on that. But if we take a step back, people are making such a big deal about Penelope not getting any suitors and whatnot. But if you look at it, the story of Penelope and the story of Daphne, they're two different girls, but their story's really the same, because Penelope can't get any suitors, and neither could Daphne, until the Duke came around and showed interest, which is going to be pretty much the same thing um with Penelope. And it could be that when Colin is helping her, then she gets more suitors, or it could be when the new Lord Devlin comes, and that causes her to get more suitors, because both are the same. They're viewed as friends. They're not viewed as matches, until someone else comes and shows interest in them. Then they are um then they're deemed worthy of being a bride. But the difference is that Colin was helping her. I mean, Colin was helping her in his own way, teaching her how. Mm, well, Colin was helping her on the side, where the Duke was like, we'll pretend to be together. With them, it wasn't, with Colin, it wasn't really a let's pretend to be together thing. It was more like, I'll be on the side, help guiding you through this, right? I do like the fact that, Lady Danbury is also acting a little like a matchmaker in the seasons, because you can kind of see, in season 3, she was the one who's like, Lord Devlin is looking for a wife, right? In the preview. And then in this season, she was really pushing for the Duke and Daphne to be together. And then her and Violet were, working together to try to make that happen, you know? And I like the fact that she is like a second mom to Simon, and she calls him out when he's being like stupid, or when she was like, you're foolish, you're being foolish, like you better not be dragging this girl, you know, I thought you better than that, you shouldn't be doing that type of thing, right? So I thought that was very interesting that she calls him out on his BS. And watching watching the episodes, knowing that, you know, re well, I should say rewatching the episodes, knowing that, um what's her name is Lady Whistletown. Penelope is Lady Whistletown. You kind of notice her now, you notice her in the important places. Like she's when Daphne was coming down the stairs at the end of episode 3, she was right there in the middle of it. And when Cressida dropped herself, swooned in front of the crown, in front of the prince, she was right there in the middle of all of it happening, right? So it's quite interesting that when you rewatch it, you kind of notice where she's standing and how she knows everything. People call her a wallflower, but there are many times when she is right in the middle of everything happening. And I think more of her wallflower thing was more in season 2, where she was really standing in the background. But here, I think since it was her first season with all her sisters, she was literally like in the middle of all the scandals that broke out at these balls, right? The other thing is Marina. I mean, I've only read a couple of the books, but the books made her look so weak. And in the book, when I started reading, Eloise's story, she was actually married to Philip and she had Philip's kids. Where here, she's in love with his brother George and she's having his baby, but he's off at war in Spain, and they've been writing each other back and forth. And that whole scene with when Penelope told Eloise that, someone's pregnant and they're not married. I was like, it's hilarious because they're so innocent and they don't know how it happens. And how, explain to me how you're telling your daughter, like, her sole existence is to get married and to have a child, but you don't tell her how a child comes about. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then Daphne's, in episode 3, when her and the Duke were talking about what happens, but, you know, what else happens when you're married. And it's like, it's so innocent. And it's like, why don't you teach your daughters what happened? Like, why didn't they teach their daughters what happened in that point? Because you're expecting them to be married, you're expecting them to have children, carry down the line, right? Sire and heir, but you don't tell them what happens, right? But back to Marina, this was definitely, she's stronger here. In the other one, they were like, oh, did I marry for love? In the book Didn't Marry for Love, she was depressed and stuff like that. But here, you know obviously they didn't marry for love. At the end of season 1, the brother comes to get her and marries her. But she's definitely a lot stronger here. It does intrigue me at the other differences between the show and the book. In the book, they told Anthony what their plans were, right? But here in the series, it's her mom that she pretty much tells the truth to. And I think I like it better in the book. I mean, not the book. I like it better in the series because she can talk to her mother about this, and her mom is like understanding, and her mom is telling her like, "Hey, I never wanted you to, find someone based on rank. I wanted you to find someone that you love and someone that is your friend." And, she feels that way with the Duke. And the Duke feels the same way too, but, he doesn't want to, get married because of what he told his father. And even Lady Danbury told him, like, you need to stop this. Like, I get it. I get it, but you know, you need to follow your heart. And with everything that happened, the king was able to get a black wife, and that opened a lot of doors for people. And then Simon was like, well, no, love doesn't conquer all, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, you never know. You never know unless you put your guard down. So with her, with the prince being interested in her, Cressida is angry because she wanted the prince for herself. So, while the prince was going to propose, she saw Simon in the ballroom. And this was after Simon told her, like, I'm leaving and I don't want to, we were never friends. We did. So she sees him, and they go to the garden, and he they both kiss, but Anthony is the one that found them in both settings, right? So now they have to duel. And I didn't realize that all three brothers were involved in this duel. Obviously Colin came afterwards because that's when Daphne was trying to go to where they were having the duel. But like, you seen it that Anthony was scared as he was trying to shoot, but Simon didn't even point his pistol at him. He just like, he just had his hand up. He was like, obviously I dishonored my friend and his sister and whatnot. So he was like, he wasn't going to pretty much do anything about it. So, and then that's when Daphne came, and she was like, you would rather die than marry me. And he's like, I can't give you children. And she, in her mind, she's thinking like, oh, he's infertile because he can't give me children. Like, no, sweetie, he chooses not to give you children. He's choosing not to give you a child. But in that time, she doesn't know, right? So now she's like, okay, I can deal with that. I can deal with that because if she doesn't marry the Duke and something was to happen to the Duke, she would die, right? Well, her reputation would pretty much go down the drain, and I'm pretty sure the prince or the queen would not allow her to be seen with the prince anymore, right? So, and so right now at the end of episode 4, she's like, she's going to marry the Duke. In terms of Marina, now that she has taken to Colin, and Penelope is pretty much mad because she's in love with Colin, and Colin is taking an interest in Marina, and she already knows like Marina's pregnant, and she's like, Colin is too young to be a husband. And Marina doesn't know right now that Penelope is in love with him. So, she's just happy that she doesn't have to be in this situation anymore. And Penelope's dad, oh, I don't know, but like in the beginning and even now, he just gives off like the creep vibes, like the way he's always in the room when the callers come, and the way he was looking at Marina in the beginning. I'm like, ew, what are you doing? And Portia finds out that he's broke, and that's why he turned away the caller for his daughter Philippa, because she can't pay the dowry, um to get married. So that's an issue. And um you know now they need to figure out what to do. And Marina has her eyes set on Colin, that Colin is going to rescue her after, you know, Portia wrote that fake letter from George that he's no longer interested in her and her quote situation, right? Um but yeah, we're gonna see where this goes. So pretty much, the Duke the Duke and Daphne, they had to go to the Queen and plead their case why they needed to marry so quickly, because he someone saw them, Cressida, whatever her name is, saw them in the garden, and she was threatening Daphne. And then Daphne told her, like, careful, I'm going to be a duchess. So, you'd rather be friends with the duchess or enemies with the duchess? Pick the side you want, because while I will have a title, you're still going to be titleless, right? So, they had to go in front of the Queen, and Simon pretty much told her that, pretty much his feelings, that, oh, it started off as friends, they were, you know, um, fooling the town. And then after that, they grew to love each other, and that's why they want to get married. So they got married. The ceremony was pretty small. It was just her entire family minus Francesca. And, on his side was Lady Danbury and his best friend, the boxer, and his wife. And then they had the party. And then, she was pretty much worried about the wedding night. It's crazy because still her mom was using words like, she's like, huh? I still don't understand. There's still much to learn. And obviously, until she found out, on her wedding night, like what really happens, right? And then pretty much they're going at it at every single, place in the house, which is fine. But, you know, the lady that's in charge of all the maids, she doesn't look like she likes her. She's like, when she was talking about the Duke's mom, she was like, yes, this was a duchess, indeed, the perfect duchess. And I'm like, you don't even know this girl. And you're already like criticizing her because she wants to change a few things. If anything, you're the one who's going to get fired. Obviously, you were there since the dad was. If he's going to if he's going to get rid of somebody, he's going to get rid of you if you criticize his wife, right? So I'm like, well, so Daphne is already thinking about changing, a bunch of things, and she's excited to have her first ball, right? So now let's move on to Colin and Marina, right? So Marina got him to propose, and she pretty much, well, he made the announcement at another party that they were having. And Anthony was not happy at all. Anthony, his face was like, huh? And the mom was like, oof, mind your manners, Anthony. People are watching. So then, like, when they had the conversation, Anthony and Colin, Anthony was like, very disappointed. Like, no, no. And it's a matter of, for his disappointment, it's like, you don't have to pay anything. You had to pay for Daphne. The Duke said he didn't want the money. So obviously he said he's gonna put it in the trust, but you don't have to pay anything for Colin. So it's like, is it more of the matter of, Colin being young? Because Daphne, and he pointed it out, he's like, he's older than Daphne. So what is the problem? you know? So I didn't really understand what Anthony's problem was per se, because it's not like he needs to do anything. I can understand the mother's problem because she was not expecting someone else to leave the nest so soon. But I feel like Colin travels so much that, or maybe he didn't start traveling yet. I'm not sure. But if he did travel already, he travels so much that he's hardly even in the house. So what's the difference between um him getting married and him, traveling? Because at least with him getting married to her, you know, they're gonna live close by, and she's already gonna have a grandchild. Well, two, because she's having, twins, but still. So I didn't quite understand the issue with Anthony being mad at Colin. And I feel like throughout this whole season so far, Anthony has just been like, it he hasn't taken fully his responsibility, even though, like, um or should I say, his issue is the fact that he sees another person being with who they want to be, and he couldn't be with the girl, the opera singer. So he's mad about that because that's who he liked, right? But he can't marry her, which I'm guessing it's because of her status. He couldn't marry her. So, but okay, we know that in the second season he meets Kate. But what's the difference between this opera singer and Kate? Because this opera singer, I'm guessing she's not only sleeping with Anthony, she's sleeping with other people too. I guess but Anthony gave her like a private apartment that he was paying for, right? So I didn't quite see what the difference or the issue is with him being with that girl. Maybe he was just, commitment issues, and in season 2 he's just forced to, um forced to take a wife. Now let's move on to Lady Whistletown and the Queen. The Queen, in her series, she was like nice, right? Here in season 1, she's so miserable, right? Like, I don't know, she just seems so stuck up. And the whole reason why she has a problem with Lady Whistletown is because Lady Whistletown keeps picking at her, right? So she it's the way Lady Whistledown talks about the queen. I feel like she should have let, if she didn't want her identity to be, scanned for or whatever, she should have left the queen out of the insults, because the queen was just pissed off at what was being thrown at her. So that's why she wants to find out who it is, right? She doesn't like to be make fun of. She doesn't like to be proven wrong. So the fact that Lady Whistletown, kept, going at her, then that's why she was like, "Urgh," and wanted to find out the identity of um, Lady Whistletown. The end of episode 6 was very interesting, right? And I want to point out that Eloise and Penelope, they're supposed to be like best friends, right? And they spent like pretty much the last 3 episodes, maybe the last 3 episodes, and they weren't friends at all, because of that time when Marina first expressed interest in Colin, and Penelope was mad, and Eloise came to see her, and she was like, she, she pretty much yelled at her, saying that she had more worries, like nobody's, she doesn't have, she's not blessed with the Bridgerton beauty or something like that. And Eloise just went away, crying, and she was mad. And ever since then, they haven't been, together as much, right? So it was until the end of episode 6 when pretty much Lady Whistleton, talked about Marina and that she's been with child. Obviously, one, in this scene, if you haven't seen it yet, you wouldn't know why she was crying. I mean, crying probably because she's in love with Colin, and Colin's about to leave with Marina to go, get married somewhere else, right? But if you've seen it already, then she's crying because she had to pretty much kind of like betray her friend, right? So in this one, she betrays a friend, putting their information out for the whole town to see. And in the second one, she betrays her friend too. So it's almost like when Penelope's character is like, yeah, you want to feel for her, but when she doesn't get her way, she kind of like puts the people on blast, Like, I do understand why she did it, because she did try to convince Marina. She tried to convince Colin to not do it, but nothing was getting through. So the only thing that she could do, because she's so in love with Colin, is to put Marina's business out, right? But I'm like, why would you do that? Because no one saw that she was pregnant. No one had any inkling outside of the Featherington house, right? So that itself, in the books, when they were like, did Lady Whistletown make a mistake? That right there was her first mistake, because no one outside of the Featherington household knew that, Marina was pregnant. So how did Lady Whistletown get the information? And we both know, like, her sisters are not smart enough to like write, you know, that type of gossip, and neither is her mom. And what would her mom gain by putting that information out? Her mom finally you know, got to be one with the Bridgertons. So that right there should have been her first mistake for people to know that, okay, Lady Whistleton has to be somebody who knows deep secrets, right? And then the other thing that happened in the end of episode 6 was the fact that um, Daphne found out that Simon was lying all this time, and that, ooh, there's a possibility that he could have children. He just didn't want to have children, you know? And the back and forth between the two of them, I mean, they were both right. He did tell her he couldn't give her children, right? She was like, I'm okay with that, right? She said she was okay with that. All she needs is him. But now that she found out that he could give her children and he didn't want to, she got mad. And I mean, if you knew you couldn't live without having children, then you shouldn't have married him. You both, and they were both right. They both pretty much um kind of like put themselves in a prison by marrying each other because it wasn't truly what the other one wanted. And they're supposed to tell you, like, oh, love conquers all. So we'll see if love conquers all. So pretty much all of episode 7 was, and mostly 8 really, in the love story, because basically this whole season was supposed to be about the love story between Daphne and the Duke. And most of episode 7 was just, the aftermath of her finding out, and, when they were having, um, she pinned him down and he wasn't able to, do what he normally do. So after that, she was just expecting to be pregnant, but when she saw her period come, she was pretty much crying, and it was this whole like thing between them about, oh, I don't want to have kids. Oh, duh, duh, duh. It was the same thing that was just dragged on to the end, and just in episode 8, miraculously towards the end, that all of a sudden he's agreeing to have kids. I feel like they kind of dragged it on way too much. That it was just still unrealistic that all of a sudden he was like, yes to having kids. And the other things that happened, the Duke, Simon, his friend, and Penelope's dad made this bet that, for him to lose the fight in order for the both of them to come into money. And I'm just like, if you needed money, your friend is a Duke. Isn't that what friends are for? And even the Duke told him when he noticed that he, lost the fight on purpose. He's like, why didn't you come to me if you needed another investor? But, the friend wanted to be like, my pride. It is a man's duty to take care of his family. Okay, it's your duty to take care of your family by losing a fight because of a bet than to go to your friend and ask him to invest in your business. Like, you make no sense. Like, that just makes no sense. And then that itself, they just said that Penelope's dad, is dead at the end of episode 8. But, you know, I'm pretty sure he was killed. He didn't just die like that because he had a meeting with the people that he made the bet with. And then all of a sudden he's dead, right? And when Portia went came back home and she heard the news, she went to his office to find the money, and the bag was empty, right? So she wasn't crying that her husband is dead. She's crying that her husband took the money and didn't leave them with anything, right? And took the money only to die. Like I, I don't know. So now they have to deal with that. And next season, pretty much, we see that someone else is coming take over to take over the house, right? Um, and then with Marina, she found out with the help of pretty much Daphne. Daphne came to her and was like, "I'm going to I'm going to help you find Mr. Crane." So she like wrote the commander and pretty much asking him to get in contact with Crane. So that's when Philip came and asked Marina, that he wanted to take care of her because that's what his older brother would want him to do, to make sure that her and his kids are taken care of. And obviously, Marina didn't want to marry him, because it wasn't out of love. But at the end, she has to do that because where is she going to stay? Who's at least with him, she's going to have security and, he would be able to take care of her, even though it's not with love. Um, but she did have a moment of weakness towards episode 7 when she drank the tea in hopes to, get rid of her babies. So you do kind of see towards the end that she's becoming, quote, weaker because now she's stuck in a marriage where she doesn't love him. But I'm like, well, when you were going to get married to Colin, you technically didn't love him. You just were using him, And Colin did tell her, like, if you had just been honest with me, I would have, um, I would have taken you in and stuff like that, right? So, there's that part of it. So Colin decided he wanted to go travel some more. And you know, in that instant where he told Penelope that, "Oh, I owe it all to you, that you were the one who motivated me to go travel," he should have noticed like there was something wrong with her. Maybe he shouldn't, like, he wouldn't take that she was in love with him, but he should have noticed that there was something wrong with her, right? Right? With the way she was acting and stuff. So I'm like, really? You're just like that clueless. You don't even go check to see if she's all right after she finished telling you, "I have something to tell you," and then all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, I forgot." You know. And the thing about that party that gets me is that it seems like there was a theme. Every female was wearing blue, with the exception of um Lady Danbury. But then all the Featheringtons came and were not wearing blue. Like they were wearing like pink, with the flowers, and then Penelope was wearing solid yellow. And I'm like, if you're asking to stand out, like, yeah, wear yellow when everybody else is wearing like a darker color. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't know. It's crazy. But it just goes to show you how her mom just puts her in that color. But like she's so pale that it just doesn't do it for her, right? And then you have Anthony who is like acting, I don't know. I'm so happy he obviously season 2 is about him. But like I'm so happy that he got a shape up, like he got his hair done because the season 1 he is looking rough. Okay, he's looking rough. And next season, they pretty much, yeah, he pretty much gets a haircut. His hair is looking nice, and so on. So in this, I guess that's why he went after the younger sister, because at the end of episode 8 in season 1, he's like, oh, I'm not gonna get married for love, I'm just looking for a viscountess, da, 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 da. So because he's crushed by the other girl choosing the other man. But I'm like, his position, she's saying that, oh, this man that I'm with, he's not asking me to change. Well, technically he didn't ask you to change either. Anthony didn't ask you to change either. He just said come to the parties with him, right? And it's his position. If you want to be his wife, there are certain duties you have to do. So you can't just blame it on him, saying that, oh, he wants to change you. I mean, it's part of the title. So if you don't want to be that, then just say that. Don't come over here blaming it on him, you know, because it's all about the title here, pretty much. But overall, I feel like I saw season 2, but I don't really remember it enough to be like, but this season 1, had the most, you know, sex in it. Starting with, Anthony in the very first episode. Then you have Simon and Daphne that had pretty much the most out of everyone here. I don't remember if Kate and Anthony had as much as they did in here, right? And with even Benedict was having some of his own, right? So the only reason I'm bringing this up is that, Queen Charlotte had a lot. I don't remember if season 2 had had that many. I remember one where they, with the whole beast thing. And then, you know, so I'm just wondering if season 3, they're they're going to be like, Daphne and Simon, and pretty much as soon as they're married, just, every day type of thing. So we'll have to see if they're going to do that. But I do know that we are going to get the carriage scene, because they were talking about it in an interview. So in season 3, we are going to get the carriage scene from the book. So again, it's very interesting what was chosen from the book versus, what was made up. Obviously, this relationship, um, with the two of them, I don't remember the prince, being in the book. So it's interesting to see how it develops in front of you, because obviously you always need, if the person is having trouble, seeing love where it is, all these stories, all these shows, they always come in and bring in a love triangle to try and encourage the story in a way. So all in all, I would rate season 1 a 9. I mean, there was definitely, it really captured like your attention. There are definitely, a lot about it. And in terms of their love story, because obviously it was supposed to be about them mostly, they did include a lot of other characters, and they did the reveal for Lady Whistletown perfectly towards the end. So now, you're going to watch season 2 knowing full well and paying more attention to how Whistletown um, interacts with other people. But all in all, that their love story, like I said, it did drag a little bit, with the whole I don't want kids, and that just so that for him to, it wasn't really that big of a jump for him to change his mind into having kids. Just that, ooh, I guess love, and that they would take it day by day type of thing. So, but in terms of like captivating the audience and showing that it's that type of show with all the sex scenes and stuff like that. So that was really good. Um, you know? So I can't wait to rewatch season 2, and just to see more of how Colin and Penelope act during the second season. Because in the first season, well, obviously, I said this in the beginning of the review, the reason I'm rewatching it is to obviously see the love stories between the main characters of each season, but to also see the interaction of Pauline leading into season 3, and how they're going to, you know, start off the season. Obviously, in season 1, they didn't have much interaction with each other, not much. But season 2, they had more, major interactions. So I'm excited to rewatch and see how that came about. And this wraps up our journey on the Review Garden. Thank you for joining me today as we explored this drama. If you enjoyed this reaction and review, please remember to subscribe for more insightful videos. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps our channel grow. As always, I'm truly grateful for your support and for joining me on this journey on the Review Garden. Until next time, and happy listening. Bye.